One of the biggest just kind of holistic ways to look at this top-down approach are all the basic lifestyle interventions that we've mentioned for whether it's PCOS, type 2 diabetes, coronary artery disease, whatever it is, you name it. It's the same sort of recommendations. And so the main thing is to just try to continue to encourage women experiencing these symptoms to exercise, stay on a regular regimen so that when you know that day 15 rolls around, you're going to feel a little crappy. You've been doing it days 1 through 14, and all you got to do is just show up.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the sort of the empathetic part of this comes in. It's not like, well, you're not feeling better because you're not waking up and going to the gym anymore, and you're not doing this, and you're not cooking your food. That's not the message we want to send.
No.
But again, just from more of a top-down approach, you want to make sure that you're doing the exercising when you know it's easier. When the barrier to entry is lower and you're feeling good, use that momentum to continue.
Yeah.
And so from a more evidence-based perspective, a lot of the studies look at specifically aerobic exercise and how it affects the symptoms of PMS and PMDD. It's mainly aerobic that decreases a lot of the symptomatology.
Interesting.
And so that for whatever it's worth, it doesn't seem that the resistance training was directly lowering symptoms. But again, that's what happens when you look at things through a microscope. What are we saying? Not to resistance train and only walk on the Stairmaster? No.
You should do both.
We're saying continue to do both. But as far as reducing symptoms go, we know for sure that getting your heart rate up a little bit, aerobic exercise is key. There's no fancy guideline. They don't say to not exercise as hard when you're not feeling as well. There's no sort of caveats here. Just do the thing and try to accomplish the same 150 to 300 minutes per week of aerobic exercise. There's no changes in in what we're recommending. But it certainly is harder to hit those numbers, especially if you have such a cyclical set of symptoms.
And you said 150 to 300 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm. Something like that, whichever works for you, or front load it. If you know that these days are coming up and it's a little tougher, those days you have 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And on the days you're feeling good, it's 55.
Doing something.
Do something.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But keep lifting.
Yeah. Always.
Keep lifting.
Always. So we want to look at the natural options. What have we got? What's the protocol for helping this out?
Yeah. So, I have 6 written down with kind of like a 7th footnote. Number 1, bees. Some of the stuff is chicken and egg. There is diet poor. And that's why they're not getting much bees. They just have a higher demand. Bees are involved in processing hormones. We'll get to that. There's a big issue with metabolizing and eliminating hormones. And bees are involved in making neurotransmitters.
Right.
B6, namely, is involved in making serotonin. So when you look at that, a very simple supplement that makes a lot of sense. B vitamins, and you want to make sure a quality B vitamin. You want to make sure you have the right forms. A lot of forms out there, you're just not going to absorb super well. You want absorbable forms of these. Daily Essentials is one of our products, so you can do the B's alone, or you could do Daily Essentials. Our Daily Essentials is essentially a super multivitamin that doesn't have enough of everything, but that has enough of B's.
Okay,
and it's got traces of everything else, but it's got enough of B's.
Yep.
So the Daily Essentials could substitute in for your B vitamin. That's critical. Number one. And I kind of have the supplements in part 1 because it's not a whole long list of them.
Yep.
Magnesium. Higher doses of magnesium, again, back into doses that you, back into forms that you can absorb. Glycinates. There's going to be forms that we have there's other forms that we don't have in ours that are good, and vice versa. There's a whole lot out there, but you want to make sure you're taking the amino acid chelates, the active magnesiums, not the citrates, not the oxides. They're just not going to be absorbed as well.
Okay.
So you want to go higher on those. On our product, you want to do at least 1 twice a day, more likely 2 twice a day.
Okay.
All right. Again, magnesium always comes back to that. If your diet's not real good, you're not getting magnesium in your diet, and further, you're getting a diet, no matter, even if it's good, that is grown in soil that's been really depleted by magnesium, and largely so much of our food is in one way or another processed that involves more salts, which is, cutting down on the amount of magnesium that can be in there. So it's really, our food is deficient in magnesium itself, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So magnesium is critical there. Last thing on the pure supplement end, or nutrient end, we'll call it, is zinc. There are sometimes, and this one isn't necessary, it's lower on the totem pole, but sometimes there's a elevated prolactin link in PMDD, and zinc can inhibit secretion.
Okay.
But in general, it balances hormones, so it's not a bad thing to put on board. But if there's a prolactin link, that's directly going to help.
So we're saying B6, magnesium, and potentially zinc.
Yeah. And then the B6, you probably just want to do a complex, do the whole family. And you can just do the complex, or you can do it within the daily essentials. I still think relative to diet and just overall concerns that the daily essentials may be the way to go.
Right.
So number 2 is a little more on the controversial end. I have progesterone. Bioidentical, mild, natural progesterone. You can get your levels tested locally here with alternative practitioners, or even certain more and more medical providers in your area. You can use over the counter. We have over the counter low dose progesterone that you can just buy on our website. Something that you use in lower doses, follow the instructions. But getting a level is certainly much more safe.
Yep. Okay.
And you would do this only in the latter part of the cycle. Theory is that there are in some cases, some deficiencies in progesterone late in that cycle where the estrogen is not necessarily high, but the progesterone is low. And when that ratio is off, you can experience a little bit of estrogen dominance. And the progesterone is a very mild, safe way to at least explore that to see if that's an issue.
Okay.
All right. So it just depends how serious you want to get with that one. Again, whether you want to do levels testing, which is always what we recommend, and then compounding, or just do like an over-the-counter one. 3, I had exercise. Dante obviously hit those. Improves the detoxification, which is critical with we're trying to get these hormones processed in women. Decreases cravings, increases neurotransmitter production, endorphin production. So all the reasons, plus what Dante named.
Yeah.
Now into more of like an herbal type supplements. I3C Complete is the name of our product, but really it's indole 3 carbinol, calcium deglutarate.
I like our name better.
Yeah.
I3C
cut it down a little
Complete.
bit. So what this is doing is, and I'll go into maybe a tiny more detail here. There is an issue in a lot of PMDD and a lot of just hormonal issues in general of production not being the problem, but secretion being the problem.
Okay.
Your body's normally functioning, responding to the pituitary, responding, to FSH and LH, and it's producing estrogen in normal ways, but your liver's bound up because the way you eat, because you don't eat fiber, because you have low water intake, you eat bad fats, we're exposed to chemicals, you don't have any B's or mag in your diet, so you've got some issues there,
right?
And you're having trouble eliminating them. Normal production, poor elimination still leads to elevated levels. Could also happen, another thing that's very common, and why probiotic will be the next supplement recommendation, is that in our guts, we all have beta-glucuronidase. That's in all of our guts. But some people have it in much higher levels than others.
Okay.
If you have a history of antibiotic use, I'm not talking once in a while when you were sick as a kid. I'm talking you had acne, you use it for a while, or you use it for every little cold, you're on it once or twice a year. General, you just have dysbiosis for whatever reason, stress, poor diet, high sugar intake, high inflammatory foods. You're going to have higher levels of beta-glucuronidase. When that occurs, essentially what beta-glucuronidase does, demethylates the metabolites that your liver worked so hard to create, and activates them. By demethylating them, it reactivates them. Now they're estrogen again. Now they've just been recycled.
Okay.
So probiotics are critical to that area of beta-glucuronidase. So that's because there's so many sitting here thinking, we're talking about PMDD, he's going to recommend a probiotic. Like what in the world? So it's like, why? That's a direct reason why, a theory on beta-glucuronidase, the levels of it in our body elevated for all those reasons we named. All of those are potential conditions that are involved in women with PMDD. And knowing how it works, what beta-glucuronidase does to estrogen, you've got to at least begin to get rid of the dysbiosis and balance out those hormones, while the I3C is also helping you to process and eliminate them. Then number 6, diet. Dante obviously hit that. Fruits and vegetables, the fiber, just help your body to process and get rid of those estrogens, get rid of that junk. So optional would be if you wanted to get a little more into a specific supplement that's shown to balance estrogen and progesterone, especially if you're suspecting estrogen dominance. Maybe you've gotten a little bit of help from that progesterone. Maybe you don't want to quite try the progesterone, but you're still interested in this estrogen dominance issue. You could do Cycle Essentials. The main ingredient in that is Agnus castus. It's been used for years to show that it can help balance, and it's really about that balancing the E2 or balancing the estrogen and the progesterone levels.
Okay. All right. So just one more time, real quickly from the top, run down. We've got Daily Essentials.
So we've got more of like the nutrient at the top.
Right.
B's/Daily Essentials. You want to get B's. Magnesium.
Yep.
Progesterone.
Yep.
Topical. Dante got the exercise.
Yep.
I3C complete.
Yep.
To eliminate estrogen metabolites. Probiotics for overall gut health, but really more specifically to decrease beta glucuronidase.
And then,
which is going to break down estrogen basically back into its active form and recycle it.
And then Cycle Essentials.
Cycle Essentials, yes.
Cool. Okay.